September 6, 2011, while a part of the combat control pipeline in the Air Force, I sustained an injury while on a run that would forever change my life. I developed a nerve condition called complex regional pain syndrome as a result, and the next 9 years would be marked by pain and nothing else. Here's where the story took a turn.
Kind of a rip the Band-Aid off type post. So a handful of you might know, a handful may have noticed that I haven't posted in a while. Long story short, my leg has gotten to become the most dominating factor in my life and has been for a little bit, and unfortunately not in a good way. Through about a year worth of struggle with the VA, I was finally able to sit down with a surgeon yesterday at Barnes, a hospital near me, and we sat down and we have scheduled an amputation below knee coming up here. I know it sounds crazy for a lot of people, but honestly, this is an extremely positive step. Don't really have a ton more information for you, nor did I really plan on sharing a whole lot of information. Just, I kind of want to have something to go back on to reference later on. So, thanks, guys.
When I woke up from surgery, I had my first moment out of pain in nearly a decade and realized I had a real chance at life. My hands were firmly on the steering wheel. Since then, I've been committed to not giving away a single moment. I've worked as hard and intelligently as possible, calling on every resource available to make as much progress as I can since then. I've learned new skills, like learning to skateboard for the first time at 30 years old. I've called on old skills going back to old competitions like CrossFit, Highland Games, where I set 5 world records so far. And I've remained committed to finding the very best version of myself and will continue to do so. There's still one more physical skill that remains untapped for me, and that's endurance. Until this happened.
Organically come out.
Grow, yeah, and get better and better over time.
It's the forcing it that kills people.
Yeah. Well, look, man, you have a lot to offer. I can't wait to, this is just the beginning of our friendship and relationship. So. And I'm looking forward to seeing what we're doing. I'm really looking forward to the test run. So
yes, I've actually never been on a running blade before.
Really?
Yes. I'm actually really excited to see what this feels like.
That's dope. You're excited to try one.
Yeah, because I think a longer run is in my future.
All right.
Not because I want to. I'm so determined. I was so limited for so long.
Well, you'll get your chance to run on one.
Right? I refuse to have a physical skill limited experience opportunity. I always want to be like, if someone comes like, hey, let's do this thing, I never want to be like, oh shit, I don't really know how, I don't have the proficiency to run, so I can't do this. Nope, I'm not. I refuse to let that be a limiter in my life. I get that choice.
We just sat down to the podcast. I love your message. And obviously you're out to help other people. You just joined the Less Leg, More Heart team. So we got a little something for you. I want you to try this blade.
Oh, fuck. That's from Levitate, from Less Leg. Anthony raised the funds, and it's from our
I wanted to make sure you got one because I know you're out to help people. And
no more waiting for the VA to fund you. It's time to run this weekend. Yeah,
thank you so much.
Pop it open, dude. I want
Anthony, thank you for.
So when's the last time you would say that you've kind of got a full running stride on?
September 6, 2011, when I blew my leg out.
Oh. Just finished up a hill run workout. Real simple, but really the point of this video is kind of to say welcome to episode 1. If you've watched my channel for any amount of time, you saw that I, in the last few months, got a running blade and began the process of learning to run. I've gone ahead and I went and put a date on the table. In May, I am signed up to run the 30K trail run in Bryce Canyon National Park in Utah. I am wildly excited about this experience. So it's honestly it's a really cool to kind of set a target that's so far removed from any other target I've ever set. One of the biggest reasons why
is that my amputation was about being able to say yes to any experience. Until I got my running blade, I pretty well had checked a lot of boxes in terms of like my ability to move towards a goal and an experience, except for running. I have not, so anything like that, longer distances, the big endurance stuff was completely off the table. So if that's the last lever I need to pull, what am I waiting for? So I've got the running blade from Levitate. I was fortunate enough to be a recipient of a gifted blade from Less Leg More Heart, and I want to use this thing to its fullest, not only for myself, but to demonstrate the process to others that are unsure, and that is able-bodied and people with limb difference, and whether or not it's an amputation or whatever they've got going on. I've got this unique opportunity to show the process from very early on. So that's a big part of the why I want to film and really track this with like training vlogs and details and updates and that sort of stuff. But then just personally for me, I've gone like, even with CRPS, I really feel that I did a good job at challenging myself physically to the best that I could given the scenario. But all of that was in the strength arena. And I believe that there was one arena of strength I didn't tap, and that's endurance. I do believe that to be an expression of strength. It's just not a 1 rep max type expression. So for me personally, it's about digging a well that I've yet to really get the shovel out on. I'm really excited about this. It's going to be a very cool experience. I love like the desert. When it comes to movies, some of my favorite like settings are Western style settings. And so of course I'd be drawn to a setting like, like Utah and the desert and all that sort of stuff. But it's an experience that has to be earned. Like if I come in and I'm not prepared, I can't enjoy that. If I come in there and also there's a difference in the experience whenever I'm going to challenge myself versus just kind of casually do it. Not that that's wrong, and there's things that's all I want to do is I want to casually enjoy this. But this is a good opportunity to tie a couple things together, check multiple boxes in one bit, learn to follow a new plan, and learn to do something a little bit different. That being said, it's not just going to be running. I will be doing strength training. I'm not giving that up by any means, and I'm going to detail that a little bit more as well. All right, so along with just simply tapping the endurance tank for the very first time in my life, I'm really actually using this as a vehicle to explore the hybrid athlete idea. If you're not really familiar with that, there's a handful of athletes I've seen that are really starting to make some progress in this idea that I remember when I started training 10 years ago, we were told it couldn't work. You can't run and get strong. You can't run and maintain muscle. You either had to be really small and a runner, or if you wanted to get any bigger, you had to be a lifter. As a prosthetic user, strength is a prerequisite. I think that functional quality movement and strength in that movement is the biggest indicator that I'm gonna have on success and longevity in life using an external device such as my prosthetic. So I'm not giving up any strength, and I'm not interested. And in fact, I'm really interested in the idea of kind of seeing how I can push both and learning how to play with those levers and modify for the current goal. So the current focus will be the Bryce Canyon run, no question about it. But strength is not taking a back seat. It's just not sitting in the driver's seat for this. So we're gonna be exploring the hybrid athlete idea. I've got a coach on board, and my buddy Bo out in Colorado, he's gonna help me out with this. He's doing really well with this. This guy is very, very strong and is planning on running the 100-mile race the day that I run the 30K. I think that's a good guy to learn from. So that's something I'm really excited and interested in learning more about, and just kind of seeing how my body responds to that. That stimulus of having both, we're gonna make sure that the strength thing's moving along with the endurance. In fact, I'm about 190 pounds right now that I was cutting some weight because I was supposed to be fighting, as I talked about earlier. And that's not happening, or that's happening on an undetermined timeline now, as I had all those people back out of fighting me. So there's a few other things. So that's one of the biggest things I'm hoping to learn. I want to really learn a lot about how to manage endurance, but without giving up the strength side of it. I really want to work on both of those things. That's one of the big things I'm really hoping to learn. There's some other things that I know that I just simply am going to need to learn in this process, and that is mostly going to be on the endurance side. I've done the strength thing for a very long time. I've been lifting since the day I got my prosthetic. I used a trap bar deadlift to learn how to walk on my prosthetic, to be honest. So I've been lifting from day one there. But on the endurance side, there's a handful of things that I really feel like I need to learn. One of them is going to be fueling. It's a very different type of event that I'm fueling for, and nutrition is going to be a big deal, especially learning how to manage not just like fueling for performance in the actual runs, but making sure that I'm not losing weight that I don't want to, as I'm actually kind of hoping to gain some weight in this process. It's going to go back up. I'd love to try to run this race around 200 pounds. We'll see how my body responds and what it does. So that's some of the big things, like nutrition, fueling. Other things is just kind of simply learning about how to like regulate inside of that race. And it's one of the reasons why I like to use the heart rate monitor and the Garmin, is that I can start to learn how I feel, or I can feel how I feel, and that's how I want to do everything. I want to do these things on feel, but when I use these tools, I can then start to quantify those feelings. Think of like an objective version of an RPE scale, if you're familiar with that from lifting. I think that I get a lot of that. And then on the amputee side of things, there's going to be things like learning how to manage my sweat and my liner and my equipment. Like my equipment list is going to be different. So I'm giving myself a lot of time for this race. You know, it's late September right now, and this race isn't until May. I'm giving myself a lot of time to learn, what do I need? Like what's going to need to be in that pack, in my vest on the day of, because there's going to be a lot of trial and error. There's going to be trial and error with nutrition, you know, there's all the different, you know, carb type supplements, electrolytes, how much water. And then there's going to be things like, all right, do I need to bring an extra liner, or do I just need to bring a towel? Am I going to need to bring alcohol sprays? Am I going to need, you know, there's all these different variables that I'm only really going to know by going out and doing the training myself. There are other amputees that have done it, and my guess is everyone's list is a little bit different. I'm hoping to develop in this process more than just simply the ability to go and run. I really want to develop like the mental side around getting back to leaning into discomfort. I spent 9 years in so much pain that one thing I did find early on as I really got back to training after I got out of pain is that my brain was very resistant to that. I had a hard time finding gear 4, gear 5 in some workouts and some of that sort of stuff. And there was like, it was a protective measure that I don't really need anymore. So I'm really hoping to like develop that within myself and just get used to kind of just sitting in that grind. And I really see the endurance thing as like equal part of strength. It's just the other side of the coin. There's a strength to being able to just keep that thing moving for 3-4 hours, the same as getting heavier on a squat or heavier on a deadlift. I don't really see one as higher or lower. I really see them as just two sides of the same coin. And if I want to be a truly strong athlete, I think in the way that I envision it and view it, I have to develop that ability. So this is what we're trying to get after with this race, and that's what I'm really hoping we can see through this process. And another reason why I want to document, I'm so excited to get 4 months down the road and look back and see how much I've been able to grow through just making the choice to be uncomfortable.
Oh man, on track right now for my very first 5-mile run. Almost a couple miles in, and I actually feel pretty strong. Couldn't be more different than a month ago. It's amazing how quick my body and my brain is adjusted to just being a little bit uncomfortable and just kind of moving, keeping the wheels going. Feels good.
All right, so pretty stoked right now. I just finished my very first 5-mile run. Felt great. There was no point where I felt any of the oh shits. Like I never had any of those moments where it's like, oh, I can't do this. Like
I'm starting to work through those and work those voices out and work that hesitation out. I've learned enough skills and I've got enough reps in now that like I'm really noticing that massive progress that I was comfortable through 5 straight miles, right at 50 minutes, just over maybe. I'll toss the Garmin stats up here. I'm not looking at them right now, and I don't feel like reading them to you, but they'll probably be here-ish, and then you can see how slow I'm running. But I kind of wanted to go wrap the video up with going over the running plan and some of the things that I've already learned now, wrapping up week 4 or 5. So the running plan is really simple. I am running 3 times a week. One of these runs is just straight up, it's just a hill run. So like I've got a hill by my house. In fact, it's the same one that I use to really like develop my gait and capacity as an amputee. So I'm actually really excited to use this hill for that same thing. Now just with running. But the way it is so I run it up, I walk it down. I start the next interval once I have gotten my heart rate down to 115. What I noticed in week 1 is after the first couple, I'd walk down and I still had to do a little bit of breathing to get that calmed down and get myself to that 115. Last couple weeks, it's been run up, walk down, and I'm already there. And I'm adding an interval every single week. So week 1, I only ran 6 intervals. This past week, I ran 10. And what I'm learning technique-wise, sensation is translating ridiculously well to my other running, my longer runs. So then I'm doing, like I said, I'm doing 3 runs a week. And so one day is hills, where I'm adding an interval every week as long as it's still useful. And then the other 2 are 35, 40-minute runs, where I'm just kind of out and back, or I'm going and I'm finding a trail that's going to fit my pace. The goal with all 3 of these runs is there is no emphasis on pace. There's no emphasis on mileage. It is simply time on my feet and developing technique, comfort, and breathing. And as I've worked on that, the distance and pace has just naturally taken care of itself, and that's going to keep going for a while. My coach, or the guy that is helping me out here, Bo's like, yeah, once you get about a month in, he's like, go ahead and feel free to go on a little bit more of a tester, something 50 to 60 minutes, which is what I did today. Found a 5-mile loop and crushed it. So that's the running plan right now, and that's going to be the running plan for at least the next 4 to 6 weeks as well, before we start intentionally doing anything else other than simply developing my running skill and comfort. Now, what I've learned so far is really simply this. It gets easier so much faster than you think. Before you know it, you are going to be feeling way more comfortable, way better on these runs. It's been wild to me as somebody who has learned a whole bunch of things. I've gone through the learning process on so many different things. I've worked so many people through the learning process as a coach. I've been coaching for a decade. So I know that the progress comes fast. I didn't expect the comfort to come as fast as it has, especially as an amputee. I had no idea what to expect, and that has been wildly rewarding. Other things, so when I did my intro to running, like ebook, it was this same concept: get comfortable with your feet, get comfortable on your feet, get comfortable with your technique. I've been really impressed with how far I think that's going to carry me now as I've extrapolated that out from that initial I am brand new to running as an amputee. Now I am getting into, again, I'm pursuing that 30K, and I will say I don't have any doubts about my ability to cover that distance. It's a matter of how proficient now, and that is a pretty cool place to be already. It tickles that maybe do a 50K. A little part of my brain. I don't know that that's wise. I will defer that decision elsewhere. But yeah, no, this has just been really cool, and I'm super grateful to be where I'm at with this. So that is the conclusion of episode 1, and I look forward to bringing the rest of this journey to you.